Here's your wrestling news for December 20th, 2022. And we're kicking off today with Raw, as a solid main event brought an end to a full 3-hour show. In the headlining match, Kevin Owens teamed with Seth Rollins to take on the Usos, but only after acknowledging their falling out earlier this year. That segment was hilarious, and it was appreciated that WWE is acknowledging past events, something that never seemed to happen under the old regime. Owens and Rollins proved to be a good pair, and the two got the win despite Austin Theory's ambush on Rollins. The standoff between Owens and Sami Zayn was an excellent way to close out the show, and foreshadowing of what's to come down the line. Raw also saw a huge announcement, as Bianca Belair's next Raw Women's title defense has been confirmed. Last week, Alexa Bliss earned a title match after defeating Bayley, and has been on the same side as Belair since after SummerSlam. The pair were even teammates inside War Games, but that didn't stop Bliss from setting up Belair for Sister Abigail last week, but did not go through with the move. During this week's Raw, Bliss discussed her character change and the impending title match, and reflected on her past with Bray Wyatt. Bliss made it clear that she plans on being the women's champion, but when the TV screen behind them glitched, something snapped in Bliss, who hit Belair with a vase and seemingly turned heel. After that segment, it was confirmed that the two will face off in 2 weeks' time on the first Raw of 2023 on January 2nd. Belair has been champion since dethroning Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 38 and has defended against Bayley and Sonya Deville, just to name a few. Now it's Bliss's turn to challenge the EST in a match that will be in Belair's hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee, but Alexa is hoping to ruin this homecoming in 2 weeks' time. Matt Riddle may be one of the most popular superstars WWE has seen in years, but the original bro just can't seem to avoid controversy. The former Raw Tag Team Champion has had tweets in the past to get him in hot water, but now Riddle is in trouble without saying a word. It was reported earlier this month that Riddle was spotted making out with adult film actress Misha Montana, but this isn't the only name Matt has been seeing. Recently, adult film actress Jordan Max took to Twitter to express her frustration over being two-timed by the Raw superstar, saying, "Does it make you feel better about yourself to kick people when they're down? Try to imagine for 1 second, the man you've spent the last 6 months with, who said I love you for the first time 2 months ago, is all of a sudden making out with someone who is in your industry, and then, rather than keeping plans for Christmas and New Year's Eve, he's going to rehab? Do you have any idea how confusing and hurtful that is?" When a fan suggested that the frustrated Max would rather him be with her than get help in rehab, she said that was not the case at all. "Can you even read? That's not what I'm saying at all. He told me that he quit drugs, and then to find out that he's A, with another girl, and B, doing these drugs with her, and C, failing drug tests so he has to go to rehab for it is disappointing." WWE has not confirmed Riddle's status publicly, and on TV, all that has been said is that he'll miss 6 weeks of time due to an attack by Solo Sikoa. Riddle's status with WWE's wellness policy has always been the subject of debate amongst fans, as it's known he's an avid weed fan, but things were taken to another level in September. That month, as per his child custody agreement with his ex-wife Lisa, Matt Riddle agreed to ensure that his employer sends directly to the mother the results of his routine lab testing. This came 3 months after Lisa held the superstar in contempt of court on June 3rd, claiming he had not complied with the terms of their agreement, including this one about his test results. Though there was a hearing on the matter on November 16th, the court docket for the case has not been updated since it took place, though Riddle did tweet the next morning that it had been, quote, "a rough day." Riddle has been a popular name in WWE for years, but despite a high-profile feud with Seth Rollins, is still not seen as a main eventer, something many fans believe has been influenced by his non-WWE issues. Perhaps if Riddle could get his affairs in order, WWE could consider him for a future world title run, but between his rehab, his messy divorce, allegations of assault by Candy Cartwright, and now two-timing an adult film actress with another, it seems unlikely he'll ever get things sorted out. More from Raw as AJ Styles lost to the Bloodline Sami Zayn last night, but both men are now part of a very unique statistic. This is the second time in WWE that Zayn has defeated Styles, and both times it happened exactly the same way. Just like in 2016, Zayn's win over Styles came this week with the use of his Blue Thunder Bomb finisher, and this week marked the first time the two have ever faced off on Raw. Zayn emerged the winner this week, but it only came after help from Solo Sikoa, proving that it's been very effective for the honorary Usos to be part of the Bloodline. Now, AEW World Champion MJF is considered to be one of the best promos in wrestling today, and whenever he speaks, the fans certainly pay attention. MJF's refusal to break character has earned him the respect of fans and wrestlers alike, but one ex-superstar isn't too impressed. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Enzo Amore said he believes he would brutalize MJF on the microphone in 5 minutes, and his barbs would lead to him trending around the world. He said, "Don't ever compare apples to oranges. Don't ever disrespect me. 5 minutes? Brutalize him. You give me 5 minutes on a live microphone, I'm trending #1 in the world. When is the time you drew a 2? When CM Punk got there is when they drew a 2? If I show up on that screen, you're getting the #1 trend in the world guaranteed, with or without MJF on the screen. I didn't have to be there when Cash showed up and he trended, and I trended #5 on my couch. It wasn't Wardlow trending, it wasn't Cass, it was Enzo trending. Not WWE, not AEW, not MJF. There's no 3 letters that can hold me. I don't have to take cheap shots. I don't have to curse on a microphone in front of people. I don't have to. It's not what you say, it's how you say it." Enzo added that his work on the mic in WWE is undeniable, and said that unlike MJF, he doesn't have to bury people to make the fans love him. The former Cruiserweight champion added that it's far easier for MJF to be a heel than a babyface, and his use of profanity is something that Amore had to work around in WWE. Speaking of language, Enzo said how he didn't curse in WWE, but instead created his own word, soft, which was printed on millions of Snickers bar wrappers to promote WrestleMania 33. That year's show saw the Hardys return to WWE to win the Raw Tag Team titles, a match that Enzo claims he and Big Cass were being set up to win. Despite the loss, Enzo said to get your own ladder match at WrestleMania for tag titles was a huge deal, and reiterated that there's no comparison between his success and what MJF has done. One famous wrestler paying close attention created a poll, and when Bully Ray asked fans who they think would win a war of words, MJF emerged the clear favorite, getting 70% of the vote in his favor. MJF himself reacted to the news, and for all the talk of who's better with their words, the Salt of the Earth needed just one to make his views on the poll clear. LOL. Fans were also quick to react, with one saying that while Enzo was good at getting the crowd to repeat lines and catchphrases, MJF is on a different level. While Enzo did have some support, with some saying his experience would give him the win, the poll clearly showed that the majority are in the corner of the AEW World Champion. A face-off between the two would be highly interesting, though the possibility of the two crossing paths are slim, as Enzo has become a staple of the independent circuit. Enzo was released from his WWE contract in January 2018 following allegations of sexual assault made to the Phoenix Police Department, and while the case was later dropped, he's since been blacklisted from the company. Between this incident and heat backstage, we doubt AEW will be lining up to work with Enzo, so this dream showdown of a war of words will likely remain just a dream. But do you agree with Enzo and believe that he'd smoke MJF on the mic? Or are you on the side of the devil himself? Let us know in the comments below. Back to Raw now, as Rhea Ripley is a force to be reckoned with each week, and the Judgment Day member isn't afraid to tangle with the men. We've seen Ripley interfere in matches to aid her male allies for months, and this week, the Australian competed in a rare intergender match. After the Street Profits defeated the Judgment Day to start the show, Ripley faced Akira Tozawa and bashed his face into the canvas several times. Akira went on to suplex Ripley, only for her to counter into a suplex of her own, which earned a 2 count. When Akira rolled up Rhea for a near fall, that just angered Ripley, and he would later hit her with a Hurricane Rana that sent her rolling out to regroup. Back in the ring, Ripley attempted the Riptide, but Tozawa escaped, and when he attempted a senton, Rhea would dodge it and hit the Riptide to get the win. This marked the first intergender match in 21 months in WWE, and Rhea Ripley once again proved herself to be one of the toughest women in WWE. We mentioned earlier how Seth Rollins teamed with Kevin Owens this week, but special attention should be paid to how Rollins acted on Raw. With high fives to the crowd and a resilient spirit, Rollins acted like a complete babyface during Raw and had an epic standoff with Austin Theory, who was the complete heel. There was nothing heelish about Rollins, and WWE might finally be looking at turning him face after 3 years as a bad guy. Becky Lynch and Bayley finally faced off one-on-one during Raw, but their dream match didn't live up to expectations. Instead, it ended with Damage Control managing to distract Lynch, giving Bayley the chance to strike the man with a weapon while the ref wasn't looking. Bayley won, but she is unlikely to win the war, as this match was another sign of Damage Control as a faction not working out as expected, as the group seems incapable of holding their own in a fair fight. At the very least, Damage Control has allowed Io Sky and Dakota Kai a good start on the main roster, but don't expect the group to be around for long. Raw also saw The Miz defeat Dexter Lumis in a winner-takes-all match, but he had some major help from a returning superstar. After weeks of stalking, Lumis earned a one-on-one match with The Miz a few weeks ago, with the stipulation that Lumis would earn a WWE contract and be paid what he sold by The Miz if he won. Since then, The Miz has tried to avoid paying, even saying he's bankrupt, and that all came to a head with last night's winner-take-all ladder match. Lumis dominated the start of the match, but The Miz fought back hard, and there was a particularly dangerous spot when Lumis attempted a leg drop from the ladder onto a table-laden Miz, but missed. Just when it looked like Lumis had the win, Bronson Reed made his WWE return by ambushing the troubled artist, helping Miz secure the cash and win the match. The Miz-Lumis feud had been going on for months, and with this win, we are sure the two-time WWE champion will be hoping to finally put Lumis behind him after this week. In July, after years of wishing others the best of luck in their future endeavors, John Laurinaitis himself was fired from WWE due to the Vince McMahon scandal. The former Raw and SmackDown GM served as head of talent relations since 2001, and he's kept a low profile since then. Now, that all may change, as on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast, Bushwhacker Luke claimed that conventions are keen to work with Johnny Ace. A good friend of mine was released from WWE about 3 months ago. He was Vince's right-hand man. They dragged him into the scandal to take the heat, and now people are ringing him up to book him for conventions and maybe for Q&As because they want to know the dirt behind the scenes. Laurinaitis may be a controversial figure, but after a career in the ring and a second career as the number 2 to McMahon, he'll have plenty of stories to tell. For now, Laurinaitis is keeping his head down as the stepfather of the Bellas and father-in-law of Bryan Danielson, but perhaps fans will see him at a convention soon enough. Laurinaitis always had a unique relationship with women's wrestling, and there was the old urban legend that he'd keep a binder full of modeling photos with him when deciding on new names to hire. It was his alleged involvement in the McMahon scandal that led to Laurinaitis' dismissal from WWE, but now he's facing some allegations of his own. Recently, Jim Ross took aim at Laurinaitis, saying he hopes he's miserable now, and on his Storytime show, Dutch Mantel said how strange it was for JR to speak ill of anyone. JR talks very seldomly about people that he doesn't like, and this right here kind of surprised me that he talked about Laurinaitis in such a way. There's no doubt that he doesn't respect Laurinaitis with that last comment he made, so if he's out of the loop, I agree with Jim. He kinda deserves it. Mantel added that he's heard stories of Laurinaitis taking advantage of the women in the locker room, saying, "I've heard some stories about Laurinaitis and the girls up there in WWE. Some of those girls were really, really nice girls. They've been around guys, but they've never been around a dressing room with wrestlers, and the vibe is different. They're trying to fit in, they're trying to get people to like them, especially management, and he was trying to take advantage of that." If the rumors surrounding Laurinaitis are true, then he certainly had his release coming, and it goes to show that nobody, not even Vince McMahon's right-hand man, is immune from scrutiny forever. Now, for years, Raka Khan has had problems with the law, even becoming one of El Paso's most wanted in 2019 due to interference with child custody and aggravated kidnapping facilitate. Khan has spent years trying to avoid appearing in court, but now the courts are tired of her making a mockery of the justice system. PW Insider reports that a bench warrant has been issued for Khan's arrest and that this was issued on December 14th in Texas due to her no showing a trial. That trial had already been delayed once before, but Khan has said that the charges against her are fake in a series of YouTube videos which have since been made private. This is hardly the first time Khan has no-showed a hearing, as she had 2 incidents in 2019 where she no-showed, resulting in her bail at the time being revoked. After years of trying to avoid the consequences of her actions, it feels like the jaws of justice are closing in, and no matter if she's convicted or not, Raka Khan is a wanted woman. We've got news from Britt Baker, who's been with AEW since the very beginning, and while she's a regular on Dynamite and Rampage, she recently had a YouTube appearance she won't forget. The most recent taping of AEW Dark at Universal Studios saw the debut of indie star Billie Starkz, who had a tall order in her first AEW match by taking on the DMD. Accompanied by Rebel for the match, Baker would get the win, but would also be busted open during the match and was bleeding through her nose. After pinning Starks, Baker could be seen smirking at the camera with blood smeared across her face, but it's currently unclear when exactly in the match she got busted open. Baker is never one to let injuries get her down, as she's previously broken her nose twice during her AEW tenure, and between this match and Kenny Omega being on Dark, this was a taping fans will always remember. And we're ending with a blast from the past, as at WCW Starrcade 1999, Goldberg faced off against Bret Hart in a match that would define both men's careers. After taking a stiff superkick by Goldberg, Hart would suffer a concussion that would lead to the end of his in-ring career, or at least that's what the story's been for decades. For this kick, Goldberg had been branded unsafe and unprofessional by countless fans, but on the 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff suggested that it wasn't the kick to blame. I'm looking at Bret bouncing his head off the concrete or the ring post, whatever it was, and if I had to put my money, I would put it on that concussion occurring on that bump as much or more so than the kick to the head. I'm not saying that to be controversial, I'm not saying that out of disrespect to Bret, I'm just pointing out something that I think is at least worthy of discussion if we're going to keep blaming Bill Goldberg for that concussion. Because I'm not sure, if this was played out in front of a jury, you could convince a jury that that was true. For decades, Bret has despised Goldberg and the success he's had, even calling on WWE to remove him from the Hall of Fame, but all that hatred may have been entirely misplaced. That's our news for today, guys. Please watch our previous video, 15 WWE wrestlers who passed away in 2022.